What was the part of Yuji that was a little open, almost purposefully kept things open to interpretation? It was obvious, but it was also subtle. Like, he went and got the book about the astrology, and he reads you this one thing. It says here, even my eyes,
even one look
can initiate, or is better than initiation.
Something like that, yeah.
So that, in a way, is a message, but it's also something that he could
contradict.
He could brush it aside as well. Oh no, that's just, I just turned to that page.
And he would, if I persist on that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he did it many times.
So why? It's like speaking in. It's a very sort of refined way of communicating, in a way. But
it can also interpret it differently. Somebody who had bad experience would tell he's just fooling, conning, or whatever, you know. But
playing with you or something.
Playing with you,
yeah.
And I felt that that was the best thing as far as I was concerned, because those are the poignant moments that didn't allow me to go foolhardy and saying, you know what, I don't want anything, I don't need anything. I could have done that, but I feel now that it's good that I didn't, because I had an enormous opportunity to interact with him. And of course, in the camera, I just don't want to. Of course, now, if it ever goes to public, and they will think that they lost everything. That's never the case, in a sense that just because I got benefited out of meeting him, and doesn't mean that other people's future is doomed because he's not there. I don't want to put it that way either. But when it comes to me, I can only just say I feel lucky, that's all, that I did get a chance to meet him. Was it all hunky-dory? No, it was terrible. Terrible more often than not.
Why?
Because anything that you identify as good, you like it. And anything that you identify as bad, you don't like it. Created that sensation inside you, which is accepted, which is pleasurable, which is not accepted, is painful. So if somebody is breaking that notion, it leaves behind a lot of pain. You know, if somebody, you can tell yourself that you are very ordinary, you are a foolish person. But if somebody really tells you you're a foolish person, why does it hurt? You see, we have that kind of notion inside us. And if somebody is just completely, this entire being and energy is just trying to put that thing where it belongs, that is how it looks to me. It was always appearing to me, not because I was in love with him, that's why I took everything about him as positive. No, I was always challenging, but that is how it looked to me. Even though I was challenging, the attraction was inevitable. Like, I really liked the way he was making me see things for myself, about my value system, about my judgment, about my intention, about what I get, what I don't get out of interacting with people, why I want to get what I want to get, all these things. My own answer, not he was teaching me anything. Basically, I knew a lot more than him, honestly. Even the scripture, by the way, because I studied those things very well. So it's not that bragging or anything, but he was just throwing the challenge back to me to find my own place, in a sense that what's right, what's wrong, when I want something certain way. Those are the places that he was hitting, and even when you realize that this is not good, but you are already hooked, that's a kind of withdrawal symptom, where you would say, you came to my room, looked at my bookshelf. These are all lies on my physics books. I tell like this. I told, look, this is my food, clothes and shelter, buddy. If I could get this in any other way, I wouldn't spend one more ounce in there. It's like that, So, now if you ask me, what do you make out of it? Why did he do that? Why did he? So, was he telling you that don't pay any attention to this book, just be with me? You can say that. If I don't read all these books, what do I do? How do I satisfy my intellectual curiosity? You can read many ways. So,
do you think that?
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that there is a very interesting purpose of his telling these things to his friend. Whether it means anything to anybody else is anybody's guess. When he tells something to me, it's a very private, it's a very subject-specific interaction. If you try to make a generalized truth about it, so obviously there is no such thing as generalized truth as far as he is concerned, so it's going to mislead. It's open to discussion, as you're telling. Instead of telling that I'm initiating you, people are telling that, so is it, or you can just tell him, he did many times, when I reminded him saying that this is what you said, did I say that? Something like that. I don't think so, something like that, so it's always at that moment whatever he felt, and but at the same time, I would say he's just a normal human being. He also has the idiosyncrasies of everything. If you think that his mind was clean slate and all these things, that means people reading his words as a gospel. They don't understand the way human mind functions. He didn't forget one word of Telugu, or didn't start eating pork and beef. He was still a Hindu Brahmin.
Yeah. Do you think that Yuji, there was a part of him, or how he functioned in relation to the way that the self or ego was operating in the people around him, that was intentionally left things open to interpretation? Subtle, purposefully subtle. Like, he would not always be direct. I want this to happen, he would leave it so that the person would maybe go home and what did Yuji mean by that?
He himself didn't know what should happen.
He himself didn't know.
He was operating very differently as
But
far
there
as
were
I can
hints
see.
sometimes.
Yes,
There
there
were
were
hints.
very strong hint.
Yeah, so that's I guess the question. Why did he operate by giving hints as opposed to direct messages, you know? What is
Because
it about the hint?
as if you ask me why, I think it serves a better purpose when it is a hint and you discover yourself. Has a lot more punch and meaning to it than if you just obey, you are never sure. To me, it that way. I don't mean it should be everybody's way. You know, why shouldn't it be so direct and tell me, do this? Because that's what we have been, we want to discover and yet we want to just obey. You know, it just doesn't happen both. So it's much better, and also there is a sense of freedom when you discover, in a sense, that you found yourself, that this is your weakness, this is the right point, this is how I should go, this is where I really feel resonating, that's my fundamental talent, that's my place I express, instead of just listening to him and play music instead of writing poetry or whatever, you know, or doing science instead of doing sculpture. I mean, he always, but one thing was for sure in him, was that he was in a place where he had certain aspects of life's confidence, like this takes care of something, like this takes care means, say if you have a poor digestive system, somehow if the digestive system can be improved, it has a better chance of handling the bad food than selecting the foods itself. So that was his confidence about the way the information is being processed inside us. If that instrument itself is harnessed by making you aware of the weaknesses and the strengths of yourself, that way you yourself will be in a better position to process the information that suits to your overall health. Health means everything that you believe, everything that you understand, everything that you reject, including everything that goes on in the social dynamics. That way, he was sure that that's more important than just giving you a straight-cut diets and things like that, going through all your health, and so that approach looked to me is more novel than telling you what to do exactly. And when you and finally when you discover about the relationship of your information processing and the belief structure that you have, you take a leap that you never knew existed before.
And do you feel like he was
there?
He was pulling.
He knew that's a possibility. And if you hit on that possibility, you will find yourself in a different space, in a sense, a confidence that will come, which is different from a confidence of knowing something well, which is two different sectors.
Is that something that is akin to like
Tell anything
to
you like.
moksha, is that akin, or is that something that's the best you can hope for?
It is
Because moksha probably only happens to 1 in 10 billion.
yeah.
people.
So that's not what he was addressing to. That's not what he was addressing to. What he was addressing to, your finding your activity which resonates with you, which makes you express yourself most integrated way. And if it happens to be something that has a value to the value system, you are rewarded. But that reward and punishment is beside the point. Okay, it's nothing to do with talent or not talent, because there is a place where you resonate well, and that is to some extent his vague definition of natural state. There is no natural state. If I say what should be your natural state, then I defeat the whole purpose of your discovering your own natural state, or whatever it is. You don't care about anybody else's natural state. That's how you function. That's how the faculties that you have, that the faculty that you developed, is just expressing itself. It's an expression of life itself in that way.
I would like to ask you some more questions about this sense of self and identity, and then how Yuji was operating, and how the interaction with Yuji would affect the feeling of me, or Guha, as you were back then. And the difficulty, you were saying that it was difficult.
Very difficult.
Because that sense of self was often under attack in a way. And I think I think it would be useful to focus some on that for some of our discussion now, maybe before lunch. But I guess one question that maybe we could start with, even though it's probably a big question, but in what way, I mean, Yuji would have his own statements about it, but I'm curious about your observations, how you saw, or if you did see, this sense of self, or ego, or whatever it is, operating in Yuji as just a sort of pattern, or whatever it may be. But did you see the particularities of, or how did you observe that in operation with Yuji, if you even did ever?
One of the most difficult things, if somebody is trying to protect, someone is trying to protect themselves, protect oneself from the invasion of the collective or individual point of views, it is very similar if somebody is trying to be extremely authoritative and narcissist. They're very similar. Because when I want to impose myself on you, And if you are vehemently resisting it, to me it will look like you are trying to impose yourself on me. So if and when my sense of self, which is actually trying to express its own point of view, which is nothing but its understanding of the social justification or whatever it is, his point of view. If somebody is trying to resist it, to me it will look like you are narcissist. So how do I distinguish there? Like, what was his agenda when he was interacting with me? So I took it there. When he was in group, it's very different, because he was trying to create a generalized platform from which he is operating, which he was clearly telling, it's nothing like you guys. So it looked like, so he's very narcissist, he just doesn't want to listen to anybody, he's just trying to say whatever he wants to say. That's what a person who is very authoritative also will do the same thing. But when you come out of that social interaction to one-to-one interaction, you can begin to experiment with him on that ground. What is that you are trying to tell him that he's wrong? Right? That's the whole point. Because if what he says appears to you as wrong, you are trying to tell him that you are wrong. What's the right one? Right? That's the way we approach. And I found that he has none. If and when I try to tell him something which at that time appears to him as if without my knowledge, without my conscious intentional movement, I am just expressing a point of view, it senses the problem and he rejects it. That's a problem, right? Because that is how my movement was getting justified. So that's a pain. So I really don't know. And this I don't know can go too far. It's a ground that you really don't take it seriously. But it is an absolutely serious ground. Because here only you feel a complete sense of rejection. And that's a withdrawal. That's terrible for the sense of self. Because it's been survived so long with this kind of finding out the truth. Where now it's been thwarted by that movement. So basically the hope that generates out of this movement is being dashed, and which is equivalent to a physical pain.
How would he dash that? How would he dash or not give juice to that sense of self? What would he do to...
Because you have nothing to talk to him when you are with him. And he has nothing to tell you.
Just one-on-one.
Just one-on-one, we walk miles and miles without uttering a single word. Which is so unlike with anybody you have ever met. I mean, I experimented this with him so many times. Whenever I found myself, we used to have walked together in New York street, just me and him. So then I came to know that it's always my agenda, my wanting to find the truth, my wanting to find the right thing I understood that as my natural disposition as an intellectual. That was the pain, and without that, how am I going to even express myself to you? But he was. So on that ground, these intellectual exercises that we are always encountering with each other, trying to enrich each other with new knowledge, new understanding, is totally undercut with him. Now, if you ask me whether it is good or bad, that's a total separate thing altogether.
So, but
Yeah.
sometimes you would have, you would be able to talk to him about personal things, maybe, and he would give the response or care, or a considerate response to you in a warmth and affection. And then other times there would be maybe no response or something like
Or
that.
opposite to what I expect. Or opposite to what I was expecting and things like that.
Yeah.
It is.
So, because sometimes when he's giving affection to you, that could feel like it's affection to the sense of self as well. Like, he cares about me. I'm important, not in a grandiose way, but just in a feeling that you feel a good
In
feeling.
fact, that understanding actually resulted in hurting more.
Explain what you mean. That
Like whenever his interaction made me believe that I am special, I'm very his things, and he would be very cruel.
after.
No, not to let that grow. It's like I can give a lot of example which will sound very silly. It's like I wanted to talk to him, I called, and then he would say, what's that he wants? I can hear, he's telling. I have
Like,
nothing.
why is he calling?
Why is he calling? I have nothing to say to him. It's like
So
that.
that would sting.
That really sting. Because you have taken it granted that his affection made me feel that I am special. It is that wrong judgment that's been thwarted, nothing else. Because we are in this social dynamics, if you don't acknowledge that I like you, I can't get the feedback to keep liking you. That is how the relationships are, what we are conditioned to believe what we should get, and how we judge what we did get out of these things, or understanding about these things. And it was very different with him. Right from the beginning, it sounds very funny. The equation was always same. Always same.
What do you mean, equation? With the...
That he didn't need me. I came to him.
Yeah.
It was my need. And often people forget that. Because that's how we operate.
And there I guess is, especially as someone grows to mean more and more to you personally, there's the hope or desire that you'll mean something to them too. And then if you feel like that,
it never goes away. And And even though it's not you, you see certain examples that it's there. So I was always trying to figure it out. What is it? What is it that, even though he established these things very clearly, even then he was so kind, giving and things like that. Especially, I was in a very receiving end. I was always getting things from him a lot. So, what is it that? So you begin to justify a lot of things out of your understanding that what is it that even makes him talk to me so passionately? What is it that makes him, or at least appears to me, that he was very happy when I appeared after some time, and like an extremely friendly behavior? What was it? What is it that is responding? I can create any number of scenarios that he was a mirror, he was this, he was that, he was reflecting my happiness, he was reflecting my passion, he was doing that. In fact, he himself was telling that J. Krishnamurti was using him as a mirror, learning from him what is it means to really something coming to an end, instead of imagining what if something comes to an end, how one functions. So what was it for him to respond that way? That was always the case. Is there any answer? I have my point of view, but it's just a point of view.
You think it's impossible to ever know for certain?
It's impossible to know for certain, but there is something that grows inside you that leads you to come to this kind of understanding that it was that he was nurturing. That is growing inside you to make you stand on your two little feet without, and that was his, there is nothing outside of you. And there is another justification I was always finding. Say I'm interacting with him. What goes on, My whole body language is, of course, is that I want to figure it out, I want to find out, I want to know what you have that is making such a response in me. I want to know more about it, So it's a natural thing. For if I see something in you which is outstandingly attractive, and I want to understand that, even if I can't possess it or whatever. So it's a natural tendency of a human mind. So I would like to really have that, I want to have that. I want to feel about that, to function that way.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things that appears to me is that he believed that that's possible to grow in everybody. And his interaction was all about that.
What is possible to grow in everybody?
That individuality, that powerful expression of life which understands that there is nothing outside of itself. Self-sufficient.
But is that understanding is also something that happens in the field of thinking, or no?
No, thinking is an outcome of that understanding.
Okay. So it's more of a
not a logically ascertained
no,
premise.
it's a physical,
It's a functional
functional
physical? Aspect. There is a lot of physical exhibition, but it's so then if I want to go one step forward to try to put it in words or understanding or some causal connection, which is obviously I am groping in a territory which is fraught with unknowable things, so it comes down to that. And my own experience tells me that it's the way the whole integrated system is functioning is more important for such a functioning than realizing a truth in terms of words, images, or any other way. So basically, it's a functional aspect that gives you the confidence, not your knowledge about an idea that gives you the confidence. That's as far as I am concerned.
Yeah.
But that could be completely opposite to somebody who believes in something and operate accordingly.
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah. The functional understanding, even though that's probably difficult to describe.
Yeah.
With the word understanding, but I think I have a sense of what you're trying to
This is all about not, and I think the word radical transformations and all these things are an outgrowth of try to give a hang of this kind of change process, radical transformation, whatever you call it. Change must come from within and things like that.
But in what way was Yuji nurturing that in the people around him? How? Because is there...
Because it was operational in a sense that if I'm expressing, if what I am expressing, if you don't accept that as a set of norms and truths or ideas, but just the operational aspect, confidence, integrity, fearlessness, this kind of things, not out of what I know is the last thing, but just the way the part of the information is operational within me, and with that itself, the way I function. Okay? And if that is attractive to the system begins to unfold. That's what I was thinking. I don't know more than that. What can I know more than that? Because at that point of time I discovered that my knowledge that I call myself always never in touch with whatever is going on in me. It's always after effect. All my pain, all my understanding, all my suffering, all my happiness is an after effect of a particular set of operation that goes on inside me. And I am never instantaneously in touch with that. So for me to be there and tell you the first-hand truth is just an idea. I could never, so that's why the operational or the physical aspects of the state is always as a description of an after effect of what I feel. If suddenly I discovered that yesterday's problem is no longer a problem in me, how do I express that? Something has taken care of. Yesterday I was a stomach pain, today I am fine. The body must have taken care of it. Same way I feel. So must have, I don't know. Can I be present when these things were going on inside me? I am never in touch with that. So I don't know what's going on. What's the state, the physical state of existence that you talk? ask me. It's all about knowledge of what I know and how I can explain what I'm explaining. So you have to always take it in that package. Now in that ground, if I want to explain, I was sure for anything that you call sure, is that there is something is in operation in him which was really making a substantial effect on me, which was outside my knowledge game. Now this is a statement. Can you verify this? Can I know anything outside my knowledge? No. That's a point of view. How can anybody, can he say anything like that? If he says, then it becomes another part of knowledge, right? So we can't, yet we feel that there is something is in operation, and I want to understand. My understanding is a part of knowledge, and only this knowledge gains confidence when something I discover is in operational in me. I was looking for all kinds of prescription and medicine and everything, and one day I found a setup situation where I started digesting my food very differently. So I must have found something, if I can pinpoint and keep it continued. So I found a formula for my own health. You know?
But there was also, so like you were saying, outside of the knowledge game, there was also a trust that came for you.
Came for me.
Felt you didn't need to verify it with information to keep it going.
Yes, so what happened, the trust didn't come immediately. It never comes that way. That would be a previously accepted belief structure replacing one with other. I didn't do that, you know.
Yeah.
I was much more open, and by the time I came to him, my belief structure was crumbled, because I realized nothing was helping me. Not that immediately I realized that he was helping me either, but there was something which I couldn't put my finger on was going on. So it was not the trust, it was the suspension of my all previous belief structure was actually opening the inquiry better, in a sense that I could really, the moment I see some so-called miraculous stuff, I stamp it and put these things in the same old compartment. It was never like that. I wanted to discover myself. So often I would suspend all my belief structure, like, okay, God like, this like, that like, some special thing is there, mythical. No, I just wanted to, I want to suspend those things. I just don't want to assign it.
Just give it new concepts.
Yeah. I just don't want to stamp on it with my previously ascertained logical understanding, which didn't work anyway. It failed to make any sense to me, you know, practically or theoretically. To me, I'm not telling it wouldn't, it will not do to anybody else.
Yeah.
It could. So many people could be benefited by whatever they are doing. I have no problem about it. I had the problem. It didn't work for me. So why should I again pick up the piece that didn't work for me and assign it here? So I kept myself suspended.
Yeah. But still at the same time, I mean, after the first day, you must have felt.
I must have felt, but that feeling never led me to again again to see him or anything.
No.
Immediately. He went away and I took it easy, and I was just recovering from whatever. But then somehow it again communicated with Julie. Julie, she was in communication, and it did happen again. That he
You
came.
wanted to see him again.
He came
Yeah.
to USA, and I didn't want to
Miss.
that opportunity
Yeah.
to see him again.
Yeah. And so, but then can you tell me a little bit, some about how the trust that was not based on belief and conforming or not conforming to it began to take root in you?
Yeah, so obviously, number thing is that I found that I could discuss anything with him. That's a big leap on somebody who is who has such take on life. It's a great experience, the thing that I wanted to experience, and able to discuss anything and everything like a friend by itself is a huge thing, so that was an enormous barrier. If I identify somebody who is very prominent, this is how you see only when some big advertisement comes and big person, big following, and then you find a huge barrier between that person and you won't be able to talk friendly and things like that. And first meeting itself showed that he was not like that. He's open to discussion, although if there is anything that you wanted to know, knowing from him is like, why are you wasting your time? It's all written in the book. It's like that, you go and do your homework. It was like that, or asking some obvious question. So it was like that. That way they trust, and he was very friendly. But there was a point he was, I think he wanted to make a transition, because he started telling you're wasting your time, my time. Because, every day you call like a ritual.
He said that to you?
Yeah, no, that was what I was doing. I would call him every day, and every day, it's like every day. Every day means every day.
And what would you say when you called him? What would happen on the phone?
Most of the time it's all funny stuff, depending on where he is. And it almost gave me a feeling that he was waiting for the phone call. Because it was like a daily activity.